Hello and welcome to episode 9 of Icons of Fright. I'm one of your hosts, Rob Galluzzo. I'm joined by my co-creator, Mike Cucinotta. Hello.
Welcome back to the Icons of Fright podcast. I'm Mike C.
Yay. And Adam Barnick is with us as well. Hello. Hello. Oh, it didn't go through. Hello.
Unmute your mic.
Okay.
Technical difficulties. Adam Barnick
There
is
you
here.
go.
Hello there.
Also, Jason Alvino is with us. It's the whole crew.
Good morning.
And we are joined by a very, 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 very special guest. The one that all of us showed up for. Welcome to the show, Mr. Larry Fessenden.
Greetings, gentlemen. I'm sorry I was tardy.
Oh,
Don't
nope.
tell anyone.
We will not. And
Sorry.
Saving that for the
Secret.
deleted scenes.
Yeah.
and let me blow your mind, Larry. This is kind of crazy. So we just put out this book. It's got all these interviews in it. I think your interview is the record for the longest. It's like 20 pages long. It is completely
Well, that's because
untouched.
we were at 2A.
Yes, exactly. And it was completely untouched. It was exactly as is in the book. And that was in July of 2008. So nearly almost 18 years ago, this entire group was sitting at the bar where you wrote Habit, talking for Icons of Fright. This is incredible that you're back.
That interview is now graduated high school.
And has become a drug addict.
But so that was a great time, and we obviously we've all been friends and following your incredible career this whole time. So here's my first question. I'm going to pick up from exactly where we left off. The very last thing you said to us 18 years ago was that you wanted to make a non-horror film where Tom Waits and Ron Perlman would play brothers.
Yeah.
Where is it? It's been 18 years.
No, it's a tragic part of my life, but sort of filled with kind of warm aspects. I did get the script to Tom Waits, and you often communicate through his wife, Kathleen Brennan, and so I was in communication, and they were watching my movies, which was very charming to imagine. And I eventually wrote her. I kind of recall it was a Sunday night. I said, "So what is, how are we doing over there?" Had the script for a couple weeks, and I just remember that on Monday morning I got one of these weird calls that says you don't know who it is, sender unknown. And for whatever random reason, I picked it up. It was quite early in New York. And on the other end, there was a voice, "Larry, oh, this is Tom Waits." And I was like, "Oh my God."
Governor.
So the thing is he told me he didn't want to play. Well, first of all, he'd seen The Last Winter, which is my film I shot in Iceland. And he said, "I saw Last Winter. It was chilling." And I thought, oh my goodness. But he said he didn't want to play a musician, which never occurred to me. But it seems to
Wow.
make sense in some weird way. We intuited the persona he had built in his career of, that kind of, the old sea shanty kind of poet of the streets and so on, all of that Waits vibe, which was what we were tributing. But I think maybe he felt we'd kind of stepped over the line. So, and then we joked, and I said, "Well, I'll write a movie where you and Ron are clowns, or we'll have a circus picture." Anyway, the irony is he did know Perlman, and he sort of had some recollection that they looked similar, which was part of how this all came about. So I wrote a whole other script, and then it was just hard to. And then I handed it to Perlman to produce because he loved it, and it remains one of my great scripts. I wrote it with Joe Maggio, and but we couldn't really get back to Waits, and we tried to do it officially through managers and the whole thing. So it's still a very sweet story for me to think of Tom taking seriously this whole endeavor. And I sent him my music, and only a couple months ago I finally met him because I was at Jarmusch's premiere, and there was Waits. So I just said, "Do you remember me?" And he did. It was sweet. And then I just scurried away. I didn't want to trouble him. And I think I did my Waits imitation to him. And I thought, I'm totally out of line. I got to get out of here. Anyway, I love Tom Waits, and I wish he would play out more. And there was the dream. And I have two wonderful scripts. And I've even thought of recasting. This is what Guillermo del Toro says it best. The natural state of a film is it's not getting made. And that's been my experience, and so many other filmmakers. And,
Yeah.
that's why
Yeah.
Glass Eye Pix model is we got to just do it. You can't wait around for the money. You can't wait for Tom Waits to say yes. You got to figure it out. And that's how I've started people's careers by not, sort of holding back. So it
Well,
all sort of seems to play together. I don't mind the
this
story.
this timing is perfect because of this, the impetus is you're starting pre-production Monday. Let's go.
It was like exactly, and I
Well,
will say the Waits
eight,
character.
8 days in, we figure out who the other guy is.
Yeah.
Oh, big.
Yeah,
But I bought your book, of course,
oh,
instantly.
bless
Uh,
you.
Oh, thank
and I
you.
went to my chapter, and then I read that, and I got a little misty-eyed.
Aw.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's again, it's a the thing about the book, not to toot our own horns, but it's time capsules. It really is us talking to filmmakers like you in a very specific moment in
Yeah.
time, and it's fun to look back on it. So, speaking of, the last time I interviewed you, I think was for the Blumhouse website, and it was when Scream Factory was doing a box set of all your films.
Oh, yeah.
Now we have pristine 4K versions of your first four films that came out through Vinegar Syndrome. And I just think it's kind of cool that every couple of years we get to re-celebrate your catalog. I just kind of wanted to ask you, like, what's that? There they are. Yes.
Mhm.
What's the scoop with these releases, and what are you most excited about with these films getting yet another release, but in a format like 4K?
Well, as much as I know my space in the horror world, I also believe because I was a fanboy reading Famous Monsters of Filmland and eventually Fangoria and all the books about horror and Karloff and Universal versus Warner Brothers. In other words, I just was a child of learning about the history of Hollywood and so on. So in my own way, it's the same with music. There's great record labels that you associate, obviously Motown and so on, uh, and Stax record. I don't know, on it goes. But the point is that I love that sort of branding and labels. Now there's sort of a coloration because of, well, everything social media just seems to overplay everything. But in concept, there in history, and Val Lewton made a series of strange offbeat horror films, and all these kind of histories were very exciting to me. And I wanted Glass Eye to have a similar vibe, a band of brothers with a certain point of view. You have the New Age in France, of course, and then Truffaut and Godard, and so that just historically you think of things in little groups. And I wanted Glass Eye to have its place in history, small as it may be, though we have Ty West and Kelly Reichardt and Jim Mickle, people, and Mickey Keating, people who've gone on, Jen Wexler, and then some of the non-horror people, Ilya Chaikin. So you can see I can rattle off these names. I'm proud of the community. And actually, in a weird way, you guys are part of that. And certain Adams made a lot of movies for us, the behind the scenes. The point is, it's a band of brothers and sisters in a certain time period. So I've always wanted to celebrate that. And so I'm not shy about having re-releases of my movies. And I got in with Vinegar Syndrome. Justin La Liberté down there, who's a wonderful, also a film nerd of sorts. He went to film preservation school. Who knew? So
Yeah.
Wow.
he used that chop to sort of run this to Vinegar Syndrome, which is a beloved label that re-releases movies, especially does new film transfers of classics and underground movies. So anyway, they're affiliated with IFC, so they decided to put out my movies, but I also started a Glass Eye label because Vinegar Syndrome has a nice thing where you can collaborate with them and then they distribute and you sort of provide the material. So we put out a lot of the old. I didn't come here to pitch my wares, but I have the little shelf of, they're old Ty West movies, old
Yeah.
James McKenney. So that's been fun. And this is what you do when you get old. You look back, and as I say, it's not really to create further self-importance, but it's to celebrate the perspective that I was putting out and the comrades I worked with, people like Graham Resnick, sort of unsung masters. He's a sound designer as well as a filmmaker. And So it's just been a pleasure, very much like what you guys have done. You kind of gather the material. You say, this is what we did. And look at the cool people we met, and we got their voices out into the bloodstream a little more. I do believe critics and commentators are very much part of the movement of each generation of things. We all know Pauline Kael was loved Robert Altman, for example. Well, go figure. And then she didn't like Scorsese. Well, this is part of the history. It's kind of intriguing, and you realize how history is built. And we're in a time now where history is built on lies, and that's fascinating too, and quite tragic, and the end of civilization. So all of this matters. But if the Glass Eye story were told, civilization would be redeemed, I tell you.
Well, and I'm glad I should have reiterated that it's not just your films, but yes, other Glass Eye Pix stuff is coming out through Vinegar Syndrome. And I don't know, there's just something, even though the physical media market isn't what it once was, there is something to cinephiles such as ourselves celebrating these titles. Perfect example, like when I produced special features as well, and you and Adam, and I always tried to. If this was the only movie from this filmmaker that I was going to put out on Blu-ray, I wanted their short films on there. I wanted, a cool little commentary, just something to celebrate all of their work, so that if this is their only shot, it's there, it's on this one thing. So that's
Absolutely.
super cool.
Yeah.
And it's
Um,
time to
I love the extras. And there's a whole generation. I wasn't actually that generation, but that their film school was the extras. And then when Netflix came along and all these other goons, they didn't celebrate that. So movies were just sort of in the ether. They were sort of untouchable, uh the posters were reduced to just a shot of whatever would sell on the streaming service. So it was sort of the breakdown of what was so glorious. You see, for me, the poster was as important as the movie, because you'd see the movie in the theater once, then it would disappear, but you'd have the poster or a picture of the poster, and or God forbid you could actually buy the poster and put the Taxi Driver poster or the Jaws poster or Dracula and King Kong and so on. So this is what I grew up with. So I found all of this being degraded by the streaming, which the main advantage of streaming is just that you can access any movie. So that was charming. But then entertainment becomes sort of throwaway. And also because they skip over the credits, it's just such disrespect. And it disentangles the viewer from sort of making connections like, oh, that was the same
Yeah.
cinematographer as Point
mhm.
Blank or whatever the hell. And so I mean, it doesn't mean you have the internet, so the kids can learn stuff if they care to. But anyway, everything is sort of fractured, and I love physical media. Also, yeah, look, I can't watch all these movies. It's a lifetime to rewatch them, but you can glance up at the spine, and the whole movie just floods over you. Your favorites.
Hmm.
Point. It's a curatorship of in your own home. I just bought Dead Zone yesterday. Like, how many copies of that movie do I have? But I didn't have the steelbook, so I'm so excited, and now I look forward to watching it again, even though I've seen it 12, 15 times. So
Yeah.
this is the pleasure of all of that.
I just saw an article. I read an article about how I want to say it's Gen Z, whatever this new generation is,
Yeah,
are rediscovering physical media and
yeah.
DVDs, and DVD collecting is kind of becoming almost like the way people collect records now.
Well,
And they're
vinyl came back.
rediscovering this. Yeah, and they're rediscovering. I just saw an article about it was like the lost art of the DVD menu, you know? So it's funny, there's that weird gap generation or gap generations, and then the younger generation coming up underneath, it's like getting into all the same stuff we were into kind of at their age.
Yeah,
So maybe it's just this little window of time that isn't that
I
didn't really do right, but it always finds a way back.
yeah.
I
I
think
think
it's in response to the fatigue of
Yeah,
the non-real nature of it and not being able to own something. I mean, I think
yeah,
that's I don't think any generation hasn't been startled by the, oh, Disney's going to delete that series they spent $100 million on for a tax write-off. It's like, what? Like
right.
it is gone permanently? I mean, yes, 50 years ago and back then movies did disappear. And now we're in this thing where it's like almost like it didn't exist in the first place. It's like
Yeah.
there's nothing.
They
There's not even.
disappeared, but they were never really gone. And now it feels like they're really gone, you know?
Yeah, or they're recutting the French Connection to
Yeah.
there's no way to recut that
Right.
to make Doyle less of an asshole, even if
Yeah.
you take
Yeah.
one line
Yeah.
out. But
Yeah.
there's the Blu-ray's a way that you own it, you know?
I
Yeah,
wonder if they're
that's
also getting into the extras too that are available on those DVDs that they don't have on streaming, like you mentioned, Larry. That gives you an
Yeah.
opportunity to really dig deep into the movie and get some raw behind the scenes stuff and some raw commentary from directors. Everything seems so controlled now. All promotion
yeah.
and all
Mhm.
behind the scenes production is so managed by publicity, and it's so safe. And there's some, there's some commentary tracks that people have regretted recording
Oh
and
yeah.
have
Well,
so it's maybe that might be another attraction to it as well.
I totally agree. And you know how the kids are now. They're litigating through their eyes from today, and they're not acknowledging where things were when the commentaries were made, when French
Right.
Connection was made. God forbid. Yeah, I mean, you can't have a character that's clearly an anti-hero. This is the thing. Like, it's funny to watch the ping pong movie, and I was like, I don't know, Travis Bickle was an anti-hero, but we weren't expected to side with him. And so I don't know. It's just interesting, all this sort of thing. Um, uh, and I think things need to be placed in context. That's the nature of art in general, and you understand from whence they came. And yeah, you're right. To get those candid, some of the legacy making ofs are as exciting as, having
Really.
Yeah.
Scorsese comment now. I mean, I did that with Ty. It was fun because then you have that looking back vibe. We were looking back on his first movie, and that's certainly a fun um, commentary to have. But then we also have the original, and you see, the kid, speaking of the old interviews, holding up because, everyone was in a certain headspace. So
Hmm.
anyway, yes, blessed be to, um, new enthusiasm for physical media. As for my transfers, it's funny, I wasn't really involved. They're quite beautiful and they're very
Mm.
crispy because they're 4K. I really orchestrated the Scream Factory box set because of everything I've described that I enjoy about, box sets and sort of categorizing things together. And these movies relate. In my case, I guess Fessenden, the so-called realism of horror and all these things, or the sadness of horror. But that box set, it took me years to orchestrate it because I had to get the rights to all those films. It's 4 films, but under one roof, and that was the reason that I ended up selling all my wares to IFC. So I made new money on all the movies, which was very sweet. And then I found Shout Factory and I hooked them up. And what's cool is they actually became collaborators since then.
Yeah.
And Shout Factory would become the physical media outlet for IFC. And I think that weirdly, I'm not taking credit for this part, but I think now Vinegar Syndrome and IFC are working together. So I've sort of pushed them to uh anyway, it stars aligned for this thing. I love the old box set, I'll be honest, because of the art which I was involved in, but there's lots of fun little this and that. But the new one has lovely commentary from Simon Abrams, among other people. So and some, yeah, I can never remember anyone's name, but wonderful people commenting, which is funny. I certainly didn't have that in the old days where there's commentary by journalists or thoughtful people, and that's a funny thing. I confess I listened to those and just chuckled away.
Yeah. No, finally, all this appreciation after all these years.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
crazy. Well, one of the things we talked about last time, that was kind of fun is obviously your love I mean, all of us love the Universal monsters. It's kind of part of our DNA. But you were talking about how much you wanted to do, you'd always dreamed of doing Marvel's Werewolf by Night. Um, but now you've created the Fessenden verse, if you will, where you did your Frankenstein Depraved, you did your vampire film Habit, you did your werewolf movie, Blackout. I even argue you did your Jaws movie, which is Beneath, which I think is vastly underrated. I
I
know
love
you're.
that about you, Rob. You've always been.
Ah.
In fact,
Well,
it's the only reason I'm talking to you now.
we'll get back to Beneath. We'll get back to Beneath. But I know you're not going to be able to say much, but we know that you did announce that you finished, let me get this straight, Larry Fessenden's Trauma or Monsters All. Is that the full title? Where basically you're revisiting all these versions of the monsters you did in one film.
It is all true, everything you're saying. And you know, my pal Ted Gagan, you guys must know him.
Yeah.
He did the press release for me, and he named it Larry Fessenden's Trauma or Monsters All. And I was sort of like, oh my God, dude, now this is stuck in the internet. It's just called Trauma or Monsters All. I always with Frankenstein, I'm always tributing Mary Shelley's original. She had a subtitle for that story called "Or the Modern Prometheus," which you know is a nice window into her intentions. So I did name mine because we all know Argento. Was it Argento or Bava made Trauma already?
Yeah, Argento.
Yep.
Argento, and in fact, it just came out on. God damn it! I wish it was buried. It came out on Vinegar Syndrome this month. Anyway, fair enough. And I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I named Blackout Blackout. It's a ridiculous title because you look it up and there's like at least 12 thrillers named Blackout, which are about blackouts. I just thematically wanted that title and it made perfect sense for the werewolf story for me. So similarly, Trauma is kind of the payoff of, yes, this is truly the fourth movie in a series, you could argue. Habit, Depraved, and Blackout. And in each of those movies, there's some kind of weird reference to trauma. And so I'm sort of highlighting that as a theme. And obviously, if you're a monster, there's traumatic history and memories, and the town has been traumatized where this movie takes place, and so on. So it was the movie, the name I chose. I'm in this tradition of the single word titles that Hitch started so long ago, and Rob knows all about Psycho. So I just wanted to, well, anyway, I named it Trauma, but Ted added my name in the front. We'll see. I might try to pull that down, but it's charming enough. Yeah, so that's what it is. I finished. Well, this morning I made a change, but I finished 3 days ago, but then I've been changing it ever since. Anyway, I'm pretty much done. I finished the mix, although I'm going to go back, and I finished the color, although I'm going to go back, but I'm going to try to put it out soon. Get on with it. You know, I'm very impatient. There's not time left. We're bombing Iran. I don't know what else is going to happen. I get my movie out.
Get it out quick.
Yeah, time's a wasting.
I think I can ask you something while dancing around a plot thing about this film. And you can say no comment at the end of it, but like in our interview we've done in the past, and you've talked about this, but not too loudly, that you always thought that you would revisit Habit every couple of generations. You have like, you know, you did your NYU one when you're like 19 or 20. The 90s Habit we all know and love. It's like your Sam is early 30s. And you always had that feeling of like, well, maybe I'm going to do Habit 3, you know, third time.
Yeah.
Habit cubed, where Sam could be older, married, have a family, and it can be more about like you. So what I'm wondering is, it's not a spoiler that Sam is in this film somehow, whether it's an alternate Sam or if he, you know, got some good Band-Aids and survived Habit. I guess we'll find out. But without spoiling that, does playing Sam again in this movie tick some of the boxes that you would have if you had just done a strictly older Sam Habit film?
Well, let me just
fold some of that into this one, you know?
Talk about nuance. These are the two issues. The idea of making another Habit was, as you describe, because of my age, I would have been 55. I kind of felt like that would have been at the tail end of when I could do it. I would have just told the story again. It would never have been a sequel. It's a retelling in the same way that the one I made when I was 18 was just Habit. He meets a girl, he's all fucked up, and then he gets fucked up more. Then the remake or whatever, the real movie, I suppose, was just that same story. And then when I spoke about doing a new version of Habit, it would have just also started at zero. It's kind of like the Halloween movies. You're like, okay, now, is this a sequel or a remake or
retcon to the retcon? Yeah.
Which part is the history? What's the history of this? All of that silliness. the bottom line is that story, which I did almost write, and I'll say the best thing about it was the graphic. It was HA3IT. I mean, come on, people. It just makes it promotes itself. It was like seven, just where you bake in that little. But I kind of wrote it, and it was going to be tragic because unlike the first one or whatever we're calling it, the second one, which was probably about sexual addiction and addiction and addiction and so on, the new one would have been more about the allure of cheating death, you see, because I am getting old. So those are presumably on the mind, although I've been concerned with death since I was 15. But anyway, so this is the thing. And honestly, I'd say I ran out of time because I really wanted it to be like a little 9-year-old kid that he also fucking lost because he's so self-indulgent. And that tragedy was as much as losing his wife, or when I say losing, he would have an affair. It would just be habit again.
Mhm. But Sam has a family that is pulled into
Yeah,
it too. Yeah.
and I had a friend who had a kid late, and it was very redemptive for him. And he was the model in terms of the late father, which is its own tragedy because you're probably, well, I guess men can always have new kids, but the point is it was going to feel end of life, or tail end of last chapter of life sort of story, and then he has the opportunity to live forever. Anyway, those were the themes. I didn't do it. But I will scratch that itch because I can just say without too much fanfare that Sam does come back. And I love that the nerds are like, now hold on, how is that? And then, well, now wait a minute here. And so be it. I mean, this is the thing. One thing I always play with in and it's in the dialogue and everything is people trying to track the rules because I'm making movies about if monsters were real. Uh, Everyone knows rules about monsters. And then the thing is like, do the monsters actually follow those rules? And, they're always
Right.
being like, well, it's a full moon tonight. And it's like, well, but it's a because and this is all the history of my engagement with this stuff bubbling up. Because, for example, in Werewolf by Night, the comic book I romanced, he got to be the werewolf 3 nights in a row. And if you do it
Yeah.
astrologically, of course, the moon is almost full.
Mhm.
So I have jokes like that in the movie as people grapple with, like, do you really think that guy is a werewolf? The moon is almost full, and all this silly stuff. But it just it's to say that we're engaged with the genre, and yet, see, my real premise is that we live with so much horror in life that part of surviving is denial. And I mean, I would argue the tragedy of our current life is that we becoming, I hate this term because it just seems watered down, but an authoritarian state. As we see the dream of America collapse, we're living with horror of sorts. And, but you go on with your day. And so I try to position monsters in that same way where they're very scary things, or maybe they're not scary and they're just part of the texture of life. There's animals that do crazy shit, as bugs that eat this and that, and zombie bees, and it's a crazy world, and we all just live with it. So my movies are always about a certain level of denial was going to be the original name of habit. Because if you're an alcoholic, you're in constant denial. You're like, everything's fine. You know what would make it finer was a little tipple. And then you're down that path. So I'm commenting on just the natural need to deny reality. And then the big reality is that death is sitting there waiting for you. But you can't let that overwhelm you. So these are the themes I'm always playing with. So yes, Sam comes back. That's all I got for you.
Wow. Well, and the last thing I'll ask about this is, was it an idea that was percolating for a while, or did it just kind of come out of nowhere where you're like, I have an idea and a story on how to combine what I've already done?
I love that question because I have to start thinking about the answer because when you finish a movie or almost finish it, you start thinking, all right, so what's the line on this? And I always promise myself I won't talk about it. Like I'll be like Kubrick, was so cool because he didn't talk about his movies, and so that just the richness and like, what does The Shining mean? Is it about the Indian burial grounds, or oh my God, and the rooms don't make sense. Of course, that movie, whatever it's room something or other or whatever it's called. Um, uh, so, but in the modern world, it's hard not to talk, and also I'm just a yapper. So, uh, the point of the story is I can't remember. I know I wrote it quickly, and I can boast that I do that. Spike Lee used to do that. And I was always like, dude, well, maybe if you'd revised the script, it would have been better. He's always like, I wrote it in 3 weeks or 3 days. And you're like, okay, Spike. But so I'm not really boasting that that's anything. But I think these movies percolate with me. In fact, you look at a movie like Blackout, which appeared to be made overnight. Well, I have old pitches to VHS, the series, I pitched Blackout to them. And so these movies, they're like 10 years in the making. And this sequel, I was always joking on set. You better hope you die in this movie. This was Blackout in particular, because if you don't, you're going to have to be in the sequel. And it's exactly true. And it was why it was hard to produce. I had to get every actor back, uh, people at different levels of their career. And it made it a 3 month shoot because I'd be able to shoot 2 days. One of my actors, the wonderful Alex Bro from Depraved, um, he was on Broadway in Stranger Things. So I could only shoot with him on Mondays. It was insane. And he was number 2 on the call sheet. And for all you film nerds, that means he's the second most important character. Not to overpromise, this movie has other main characters, and they're wonderful, and it's different. Honestly, I don't know what kind of movie it is. I made it with great. What can I tell you? I have to count on my fans to journey with me on this one. It's not more scary than ever before. It has a lot of monsters, but they're my monsters, so they're really just sad dudes wandering around. And you're like, I don't know what this movie is or what the audience is. I'm just gonna have to listen, I'm done. So bear with me. I hope people can enjoy it, but I really don't know what I've made. I just know whatever. What can I do?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about Blackout in in regards to Werewolf by Night. Um, I'm actually look, I'm a huge Werewolf by Night fan actually. And I got to say, first of all, I think Alex Hurt made dude, I have that in my I have that in my box.
Wait a Now you're driving me nuts. Look at this.
Oh, sweet. Oh, wow. You got the
Nice.
yeah. I think Alex Hurt was the best Jack Russell will ever see. You
Yeah.
know. I also I also thought your werewolf was better uh, than the actual Marvel Werewolf by Night that came out design wise. I thought it was great.
Thank
Um, that shot where he's holding the naked girl with the blood, that could be like a Frazetta painting or a
you.
Basil Gogos paint. It was just so great, and I love the design of that werewolf. And I know you've been, as you say, romancing that adaptation. It did any of what you had in mind for Werewolf by Night possibly make it into Blackout, or was it its own thing?
I would say absolutely. First of all, Werewolf by Night, when you really get down to it, it's only 3 or 4, maybe it's 10 episodes, but it's really the first 2 that every image, uh,
Yeah.
just, I mean, almost more than anything else, everybody loves Bernie Wrightson, of course. But the truth is there's something about the Plug drawings of the
Oh
first
yeah.
episode of Werewolf by Night.
Yeah.
And whenever I'm on set, I act like a Mike Plug. I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
I realize I'm an old man, so it's kind of gross, but I know those moves. And the funny thing is, and I get my actors and I'm like, no, man, it's like this. And I'll tell you this, I made a movie called Skin and Bones with Doug Jones, and he was the only
Hmm.
guy, he knew how to move the way basically Mike Plug drew. And
Right.
he and I would be in stitches laughing because I'd go, all right, dude, so you go like this. And he'd go, and I'd be like, oh my God, it's perfect. So I always had fun with Doug. And Alex Hurt, as you point out, I think he gave himself over to the pathos of the werewolf, alcoholism, the father story, because he had an overbearing father who happens to be
Hmm.
named William Hurt. So I mean, that's just and of course, Werewolf by Night has father themes as well. So the truth is,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
that was really yeah. Without consciously, I wasn't sitting there comparing notes. The point is a lot of these things, which is why I presume to make these movies. I've absorbed these stories. They're just part of my DNA. I don't have to go back. In fact, sometimes I'm like, I should have gone back and I could have made a more thoughtful reference. But
Yeah.
whatever you see is just how I've digested these stories. Anyway, I hope I answered your question. I
Yeah. I
appreciate
mean, like, I think I honestly think Blackout was probably the best, adaptation of Werewolf by Night we're probably ever going to get.
no, that's so
And
sweet.
and yeah,
Appreciate
that's a real I mean, like, we're all surrounded by our influences and things we love, and it all kind of bleeds into our own work, subconsciously or consciously or whatever. And it was really cool to see that. And you brought up something. I don't want to. I'll say this. This is a spoiler warning if you haven't seen Blackout. Just fast forward past this part a little bit.
it.
Um, uh, but I really like how you brought up before about how the awesome the monsters in your stories don't play by the rules that supposedly that they're supposed to play by. And I actually really loved the very, very end of Blackout, where it's, again, spoiler alert, it's kind of revealed that, the werewolf didn't die because, and it's funny because in that instant, and let me know if this was something conscious in your writing, but like, who the hell said silver bullets kill werewolves? That was that was I was just talking about it with the guys earlier. I kind of love that little thing because that was a fabrication of Kurt Sidomak, correct? Like in The
Yes.
Wolfman, like he kind of just made that up.
Well, he made up
So
everything. He made up the full moon too, believe it or
yeah.
not.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
Yeah.
truly, they always say we have Dracula and Frankenstein as literary pieces, but in a way, what is his name? Sidomak.
Yeah.
Uh, he sort of created the mythology. I mean, if you look at of London, it's so
Right.
contrived. It's kind of charming now, but it's all about
Yeah.
this, weird night blooming flower and all this kooky stuff. Although in a weird way, that's influenced by the moon. So I don't know. The moon was in the ether of werewolves, but yeah. So silver bullets and all of those, they're such peculiar contrivances. And the other fun thing I play with um, is in both movies. Now, this is a teeny tiny teeny spoiler alert. The guy looks up and the full moon is there in the daytime. I do that in Blackout. He's like filling the car and he's like looking up and there's the fucking beautiful full moon in the day. And he's like, oh, and then he's rushing to wherever because I guess somehow when it's dark and it's a full moon,
Right.
it's all very
Right.
funny and silly, but hopefully very loving. And it just shows to me, it plays into like the mystery of life and science and physics and metaphysics. It's like the point is we don't understand how the world
Right.
works. Philosophers and scientists trying to figure it out forever. So I like to play with all of that.
I really liked how, and this is something I brought up to the guys before we were talking. Like, what I loved about the movie overall was it like kind of all your movies, okay? Which is the reason why I think all of us kind of gravitate to them. They're genre movies made for grown-ups. Well, I dare say grown-up nerds, okay? Like we all
Exactly. All
grew
right.
up.
Now, grown-up nerds who have
Like because they don't try to tick any boxes, and I think that's like super refreshing. It was great to see this. It was great to see a movie where I didn't really recognize anybody in the cast. They were all giving excellent performances. Um, and it was a story that was unfolding in a very kind of like stream of consciousness kind of way that I appreciated because you're not led by the hand through your stories. And I thought that was really refreshing. I like this idea of this character who fully accepts, what is happening to him, understands it to a degree where he knows like he's at a place where he's going to check out soon and he wants to leave the world a little better than
Yeah.
he found it. The tragedy is he still lives. Like
Yeah.
I thought that was like a really you don't see that, and I think that's one of the hallmarks of all your films, and I think why we're all kind of drawn to them in such a way where it just feels like, yeah, that makes total sense in a like I said, almost like a dreamlike kind of stream of consciousness kind of way. But it's something that I think is wholly absent in a lot of the you know modern horror movies, modern genre films. You know, you're trusting, you're trusting us as the viewer as much as we're trusting you as the creator, and I think that's very refreshing.
Well,
Man, that's so cool.
our
It makes
last
me want to
interview.
have you guys watch the sequel because you would.
Yes.
Well, as I say, I continue you on that journey. I don't know if it's going to work for you, but that's, at least that's the idea, that same thing where I don't play to the genre. It's all in there so much, the love for genre but I'm not trying to pander to the
Yeah.
requirements of the
Right.
genres.
You're kind of leading with character instead of screenwriting bullet points. It feels like, you know
I
what I mean?
always
Like
say,
this.
what would it really be like is what
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
ask
Yeah.
myself about these monsters.
I
Well,
have
the
I'm
last
sorry,
time we
Rob.
spoke, just one quick point. The last time we
Sure.
spoke to you, we came up with the analogy or the slogan that you make movies for nervous people. Now I think you make movies for grown-ups. That's
Yeah,
that's how
for
I view it.
grown-up nervous
Because
people.
Who
Movies,
should be nervous?
yeah, who should be nervous? Yeah, no,
movies
I'll
for
speak
weary
for
people.
well, I'll speak for Jay really quickly because Jay's being polite, but basically we saw the new Mummy movie from Blumhouse as like an 8-year-old girl, and he's just like is this for like 8-year-olds? Like what? Who wants to see
Yeah.
this? Like horror should like not all horror, but horror for the most of should be for adults, and it's like especially the Universal monsters like. They should be horror movies for grown-ups that kids
Yeah.
sneak in to
There,
see, not with an 8-year-old as the lead.
there's a reason why we're not speaking about the most recent version of The Wolfman that came out recently.
Oh,
I actually have one more question for you. It's more of a broader question. In watching Blackout, and again, we've kind of watched all your movies from the beginning. Um, a lot has changed in filmmaking. Okay.
Mm.
A lot has changed in filmmaking. I was wondering as I was watching Blackout, um, what's what hasn't changed? What's stayed the same throughout all your career in filmmaking? What's something that you're like, God damn it, this hasn't changed at all? Through all I mean, cameras change, format changes, all, special effects change, but like what hasn't changed for you?
well, for me, of course, I call myself old-fashioned. I still cite Hitchcock as my favorite, and Scorsese, who technically is old now to the kids. Um, but I mean, it's the old cliche of people do like some connection, and uh, it's a fun, interesting, deep question. But I mean, I think people want to relate to the characters. Acting isn't something you can fake. All this bullshit about AI and all that. It's just not, you know, people and I now I hate the word authenticity because Trump is authentic because he's just a douchebag and you can see it in front of your eyes. But let's be honest, this is why people still revere Cassavetes and the work of De Niro and Pacino, all those acting giants from the 70s uh, it felt raw and real and like they were exposing themselves. And my contribution to horror is the idea of bringing genuine psychology into these sort of mythic stories. And I think in a weird way that the genre has caught up to that agenda. I don't really hold any responsibility because I never achieved notoriety, but um, that was what I was doing, and I wasn't getting into Sundance and I wasn't being taken seriously. But now you can honestly say that's what they figured out. I mean, whatever your opinion of Hereditary, or I Saw the TV Glow, or any number of wonderful new, It Follows. It's just there's a nuance to them. I think that was a departure from, the Hammer films and some of the just leaning into genre from frame one. And obviously, you can still see that if you watch Frankenstein with Boris Karloff, you feel a connection to the monster, the psychology. So I guess the answer is people still respond to an honesty in the storytelling. You can have all the artifice that Hitchcock brings, which I find very pleasurable because you think also about the medium and how he's manipulating it and the cool shots and all of that. And obviously modern films also celebrate cool shots and oneers and all the things that are kind of fun for film nerds. And that you also know there was an effort made. I think I was never a Marvel guy except for the monster comics, ironically. But as far as the superhero universe, it was just not my jam. But even I can tell the difference between the ones they cared about and then when they just kind of
Hmm.
CGI them all, like I think Aquaman, you start realizing, wow, you guys don't really care anymore. And that's really the complaint. I mean, it's just the oversaturation in the sort of the cookie cutter quality. But obviously they had, when they stole all the good actors to put them in, to play the Hulk and to play the guy with the arrows, whatever his name is. Uh, that was all right. That's
Cupid.
cool.
It's Cupid, I think.
Is it
No.
Cupid? Oh,
Yeah,
no.
that's his name.
Yes.
Come on, the guy who got run over, Jeremy, baby, Jeremy Renner.
Yeah.
They stole all the
Hawkeye,
great
everybody.
actors.
Marvel nerd here. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
of course. No, so the point is they stole all our great actors, and so they're doing something with those properties, but it just became a bit redundant, I think. Um, Anyway, what are we talking about? Oh, I don't know. People still like stories that feel real and not
Hmm.
just leaning on the cliche to the point where you're like, so obviously that's what I find interesting. And I think horror is a dynamic medium now because people will take it seriously and see artistry uh, in that space, which used to be reserved for
Hmm.
the drive-ins. Now, of course, there's a point when something gets co-opted and you're like, "Ugh," then that becomes annoying. But everything's a little bit annoying now, unfortunately.
Yeah. Is that, I was going to ask too, like, what's become harder for you in the process from the NYU days and, no telling all the way up to now?
Just money and distribution is the same old thing. I have a very privileged place because there are people who celebrate my work, and so I'm never going to complain, but I can say that it's hard. And also, I like to work quickly and intuitively, so I don't really want to spend a lot of time convincing someone why my movie is going to be great. I have no overall confidence. I feel a responsibility to be honest with my offerings, and so I sort of fight for my movie. It's not for my ego or my career. There's barely anything there. But I do believe in the movie and the mission of the movie and everything you've said, Jay, is so incredibly meaningful to me because you're getting or you're at least being nourished by what I have to offer. As we know, this won't translate into big box office. I'm happy when some offbeat filmmakers get a success, like what's his name, Perkins recently.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
whether I can't say that I absolutely love that film, but I love what it was, out of the blue, atmospheric, uh, personal, or at least specific to him. And that's what I look for in anything, and I think you'll find it most likely in horror. So this is why I love the genre, beyond that I just like certain monsters and what have you. It's just also conceptually its place in culture is valiant, you know, and usually it is speaking truth to power. Obviously, this is why Romero is such a hero, because he was actually making political films, and same with Carpenter in his way. And I mean, maybe not Halloween so much, but you know, They Live and so on and so on. The point is that there used to be an engagement with the society, and um, now I really am droning on. What changed? Nothing, just some technology.
Yeah.
What matters is the same stuff that connects, stuff that's relevant, stuff that, I mean, when Hitchcock made Notorious, which just is a standalone great film, but he had put this plot device that had to do with the nuclear, you know, in the bottles of wine. And anyway, it was just weirdly prescient. It was what people were thinking about at the time. He didn't do it politically because he wasn't that
Mm.
kind of guy, but there was an intuition about something frightful, which was, you know, sort of the nuclear secrets and so on. So anyway, on it goes. More importantly, he was always engaged with timeless themes of trust and paranoia and so on. So there you have that. I think those are the things we still are engaged with. But what I love about horror is the monsters, because the monsters are almost a spiritual aspect. They are the thing we can't understand. They are the religious aspect of secular life, you know. Well, what if there were werewolves? They're not angels. They're not associated with rule books like the Bible, but they're this thing we can't understand or can't identify. They stand in for nature and cancer and storms. That's what I love about them. This is an example. Sorry to keep talking, but uh, then you
We're
have
with you.
like um, you know, Godzilla. I really liked the reboot by Garth Edwards because the monster
Mm.
was just this fantastic.
Mm.
I don't know, and I know not everybody liked it. Some people he said he wasn't in it enough, and I'm like, well, they had the whole other monster, the Moto. Uh,
Mm.
but more importantly, the filmmaking is so cool because you'd see you know, you'd be in a space hiding, and you'd see the doors close right as Godzilla walked by. So
Mm.
he designed the thing to be like, if it was really happening, you'd be like, wait a minute, did you see that shit? So
Right.
anyway, I love that. But more importantly, way more importantly, he didn't have all this now I won't remember what it's called, this stupid society that supposedly tracks. It's a whole TV show now.
Oh, the
Oh,
Monarch. Yeah.
Oh.
Monarch.
Now, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm going to object to that, even though my pal makes these movies now, Adam Barnick. I'm sorry, not Adam. Oh, Adam.
You spoiled it.
Wingard.
Godzilla coming next year. Yep.
Whatever his name is, who made You're Next.
Wingard.
Wingard. Yeah.
Adam,
Wingard.
Yeah.
and Simon. Bless their souls. And, you know, I'm so glad for their success, but I don't even think they probably came up with all this. The Monarch thing annoys me because that is true fantasy, that all the nations of the world would work together.
Yeah.
We would never get past the first meeting.
This is very dangerous when metaphors don't track with reality. I watch that and I'm like,
Yeah.
this isn't true. This isn't true. We're not in the bunker with Putin. Well, maybe we are, but uh, we're not all getting along. So the
Right.
base, whereas the original Godzilla was about nature is something you can't control. It's bigger than us, and you never know if
Mhm.
Godzilla's good or bad. He might fight Kong and be kind of the good guy, or what. It's our relationship to reptiles versus or whatever he is. But I don't know. All of that is so much more interesting than like the Monarch Society. If you watch
Yeah.
some of the later Godzilla movies, most of them they're flying around in airplanes. First of all, I hate flying. Second of all, they're flying to the North Pole to see the thing that's buried. Then they're going to fly to the South Pole and see the thing with the island. And it's like, oh my God, this is just movies about people in airplanes. It's just so silly. Anyway, sorry.
It's so
Nobody asked
simple
for
too,
that
because
critique.
in Japan they did Shin Godzilla a couple of years ago, which I thought really captured the
Oh
chaos
yeah.
of what
I'm
countering a
sorry,
real
you mean
monster would be.
Godzilla minus one?
No, the
The
Yeah,
one
one
that
before
before
that,
it. It's called
before
Yeah,
that,
Shin
Shin Godzilla.
Godzilla.
Shin Godzilla, and
yeah.
it captures that panic and the chaos, and nobody knows what's going on, and you don't feel
Yeah.
like anybody's in any kind of control, and that's what
Those
monsters
two
like that
movies.
would be. That's what
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
we
right.
should be at. You're
Now,
right. There would be no coming together.
there'd be no
We
cooperation.
don't we don't we've had kid we just went through a thing where we didn't all come together, and look what happened. So
Well,
you're right.
exactly.
It's
In
complete
fact,
fantasy.
I
Yeah.
completely agree. It unraveled us. Now
Right.
there's everybody's reclaiming the pandemic for their own ends. I mean, the
Yeah.
right wing says there was no pandemic; it was all a lie, and I'm like, not so much. Actually, people
Hmm.
were afraid. Whatever your vaccine things are, whatever your things are, but it's like now everyone just has to own everything, rebuild their own histories, and then nobody agrees on anything. So it's just like very exhausting, to be honest. Talk about who the hell's writing the script. So I don't know, but I want to celebrate. I also thought Godzilla minus one was a gorgeous film. Also,
Beautiful.
Yeah.
evoked,
Yeah.
in a way like the original evoked the nuclear problem. So anyway, there you have it. What a fun genre it is, and just like anything, needs to be respected and surprising and delicious and truthful.
Well, I know Adam wanted to. We always talk about your filmmaking, but I know Adam wanted to touch a little bit upon your acting. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, it's no spoiler that, you were kind of being, aside from your directorial work, you were making a name for yourself as showing up in a lot of great movies briefly, and something terrible would happen. But I feel like at least in the past 10 years or so, uh, we've gotten to really see you get to do more. And, I feel like, I always loved Habit, but I think Robert Mockler's Like Me, in my opinion, maybe your best performance, and you got to stick around. And um, Brooklyn 45, you get to stick. Actually, I mean, there's spoiler.
I don't stick around in
No,
that.
no, there's a very.
Mm.
I was shocked by what happened, but you're getting a chance to really have some meat to your performance versus like it's 5 minutes and gone. And even the end of Killers of the Flower Moon and Dead Don't Die, it's been great to see you utilized instead of like a fun walk on, you know? So I
Yeah.
would just love to talk about maybe some of the more notable acting we've gotten to see you do in the past decade. And I guess maybe we're going to see it again with Sam's return too. So
I have a couple lines. I forgot to memorize them, and then I was on set. I was like, "Oh fuck." Um,
we'll cut that part out.
yeah. Um. Oh, but my favorite acting I did, which was less than 5 minutes, was I had a neighbor who was actually doing a what do you call it when you sew something? Anyway, you know what I mean, like a pillow of the werewolf, and that happened to be she did pet embroideries. And so my wife said, "Oh, will you do my husband's werewolf as a pet project?" So anyway, the point is that she knew a filmmaker, and she said, "Would you consider being in this guy's movie?" And I said, "Well, all right, if it's quick." So I drove down to New Jersey to be in this movie with a dog, and just one day, and then it became the underground hit of the year, and it's just so charming. It's really warms my heart that you can do a favor, and then suddenly you're part of something that really is the epitome of independent film. If you guys know what I'm referring to, it's called Good Boy.
Good boy.
Mm.
Yeah.
Starred this
Yeah.
dog, and he shot it for 4 years. I ended up just on a video as like a backstory, but it was fun to support him and his wonderful wife and dog, for that matter. Just because they were trying something different, and I like supporting that kind of thing. And then it ended up that they did very well by it, and I got to be sort of part of that. And it stands for what I care about, which is being able to make movies on the edges that then strike a nerve with people. Anyway, it's a sweet story. But other work I've done recently, I mean, in a way, I had that glorious year doing the Scorsese film, which just, you can't quite beat that in terms of my love of that filmmaker and his charms and the experience. And I hung out with Jack White, which was cool. And and then that same year I was in Ty's movie, which is always profound because Ty's my little guy, and he's very famous now, and he's Ty. But it's nice that he has me back, and I know all those guys. Jacob Jafke worked at Glass Eye Pix, so did Peter Polk, still in the team there, and Elliot Rocket shot Innkeepers and one of our other great films, Liberty Kid, non-horror, wonderful movie by Ilya Chicken, and so on and so on. So there I am with family, uh, and of course playing with Mia Goth. Oh, and what am I saying? Kevin Bacon on the set of Psycho. So hello. I'm really at this point, I understand my place in showbiz, but I can still geek out and have fun. When I got to the Universal set to film Maxine, I immediately went and watched the Jaws ride. So silly. It's just the shark just coming, on a thing. But that gave me joy. And then I wandered over to the Psycho house. And I remember this, I was taking a picture of it. This is mean, but fair enough. And some hoity-toity person came up and said, "No pictures. Who do you think you are?" And I was like, this wouldn't be happening without my helping Ty along. So and she turned out to be a PA telling me what. But we had a great time. And Kevin Bacon, of course, is just a real pro. And, we did the scene over and over, as you do when you have a fancy budget and Ty West at the helm, just to get like some close up of Kevin's gun in his back pocket, we would run the whole scene. So, these are the great memories. I do like making movies. That's the thing that keeps me doing this. And of course, you get a paycheck for the acting. So those are fun. And it's very sweet. They flew me out. So there was that. The Jarmusch movie I liked even more because, little known fact, though I think I've started to say it, not following my Kubrick advice, but I wanted Adam Driver to play the Frankenstein monster in Depraved. And at the time, his agent, I have it. Well, I don't know if I have it. I always talk about having it. I have an email saying, if you don't mind waiting for Mr. Driver, he's just finishing this show, Girls, and then, he'd love to engage with you about this. And I'm like, okay, I'll wait. And then I waited for, whatever it was, a month. And then I saw, that's funny, he's in Lincoln by Spielberg. Oh, he's going to play Darth Vader's son, or whoever the fuck he plays. Anyway, I don't think he's actually going to do my movie. But there I was on the set with him and Bill Murray. So this was a glorious, fun time. I didn't tell Adam this secret story of mine, but let's just say that's how much I've always admired his work. And so that was a thrill. So the nice thing, though, when you're doing a movie with a famous person or whoever they are, somebody you might even fanboy over, is, on action, it's all, none of that is relevant. Now you're just working together and finding the zone. So it's just fun. I mean, Chloe Sevigny is also so cool, and Buscemi was on that shoot. So very, very privileged to be with all those fun people. And Bill Murray's funny because I'd worked with him once before. So as far as my acting, I mean, I don't have an agent. I don't really have a mechanism to get roles. I hate learning lines almost as much as flying. So the bottom line is it's all dramatic for me. So I try
if you're filming in New York and the role is silent, Larry will gladly take the role.
Come down to that. If I play a deaf mute and it's in the, I'm your man.
Well, I do want to ask about, and obviously you touched on all those, but I was so happy to see you in a Scorsese movie in Killers of the Flower Moon. What was that like? Just because, again, I was like, oh my God, Larry's working with Scorsese.
It's his second time, though.
Oh, second. What was the other time?
Bringing Out the Dead.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Which was amazing because he had, that was back, he had seen Habit and
Oh,
This is
wow.
the
Okay.
thing. It's Martin Scorsese. He's not just some clown. He's seen all these movies. He knows what he's talking about. I'll tell you, briefly, the best thing about Killers was just he's so personable. He's not there a lot of the time. Like we rehearsed, so we were playing a radio play, which of course I
Right.
love because of Tales from Beyond the Pale. So, and the casting agent, the casting director, Ellen Lewis knew about Tales, but I don't know. I think they just the reality is with that movie, I was going to be Leo's sidekick, and I was going to be down in Oklahoma for 3 months with no lines and maybe a death scene. So I was like, well, that's cool. I'll be on set. Nope. De Niro will be somewhere, and this will be the highlight of my life. Well, they cut the character because
Mm,
I read the book, and the character has one page. He has like one mention. I was like, I
Mm.
don't know if they're going to keep this character. Anyway, they didn't. And then sometime later, Ellen said, "Oh, Marty still wants you for this," which is so sweet. And we'd done all the Skyping and all of that to get that role. Um, and then Ellen says he'll have something for you. And I was sort of tracking the production, and I saw that they wrapped. And I'm like, they never called. Hmm. And then she said, "Oh, well, he's going to do a coda at the end of the movie, and maybe you can film. It's going to be in the Bronx." And I'm like, "Yes, that's good. I can take the subway to the Bronx. I like it already." And it's a radio play. Oh, but so I won't have to learn the lines. I'll read them off the page. This is my kind of picture. Anyway, so we rehearsed a lot where they were setting it up, and there was this really cool um, AD, assistant director, a young fella, and he was orchestrating everything, and that's when we all would hang out. And so we did that for like 3 or 4 days, going through this and that. He was working with the orchestra, the music, this and that. We were just in a room where they had tape on the floor. And then one day, Marty came, and it was like Mr. Scorsese's coming, and this was the tail end of COVID, so the masks and all this, you had to do a test every day, all very, oh my God, stressed out. And then Marty came, and he was just so great. You just see his precision, and he was like talking to the Foley guys and all of this, and like that didn't seem to work. I really didn't understand that. Can you do this? And just like adjusting everything, and we had dialogue coaches and all this stuff. I mean, it's just what I guess I'm saying is that when you hear these movies cost a lot of money, they can afford to have people who care, specialists. There was a radio specialist who was there, and he was like,
Mm.
this and that and this and that.
Mm.
So it was just very beautiful, the care, the thoughtfulness to go into a sequence that I think is maybe 4 or 5 minutes. I don't know. Anyway, then we went to Marty's childhood high school, which was a religious school in the Bronx. Um, and it just happened that they had a beautiful stage, and that's where the thing was filmed. And it was what's his name? Rebus Philbin? Is that his name? Um, the famous guy, what's his name?
Oh, Regis Philbin.
Regis.
It was the Regis Philbin room at Marty's fucking high school. And I was like,
Oh.
Marty, what did you get? A fucking closet upstairs? He had a chuckle. So we filmed in the Regis Philbin Memorial fucking stage. And Marty was just, what I was trying to say is he's just so buoyant and fun and conversational. And you realize, why he gets great performances. Everybody's at ease, but of course it's extremely serious. And then he would tease me, and he would say, well, the priests that ran this school were really rough, and a hair out of place, and you'd get in trouble. He said, Larry, you would have been pilloried. Look at you. So and then, but we talked about the movies. I would just ask him. I would say, so what was your favorite movie to make? And it was a bittersweet answer. It was Mean Streets. It was his first fucking movie. And I was like, yeah, I guess it's downhill ever since. But his favorite
Yeah.
Ty West movie is The Innkeepers, which
Oh,
was
wow.
sweet. And then he, of course, knows Kelly Reichardt's work. So we just gossiped like two kids talking about movies and or like what each other had done. Very respectful. He knows all about that. And then he'd go and talk to Jack White about music and the blues, and he's just he's an an encyclopedia of an art lover, has just great stories to tell. Anyway, it was great. And then, then he's directing you and he adjusts. Um, it's just very natural. As I say, once you're doing the work, you're just collaborating, and it's no different than being directed by Ted Kagan or anything else, except in the back of your mind, you're like, this is, I grew up with this,
Yeah.
worshiping this guy's work and his aesthetic and all the things he's done for cinema. So
Well,
it's
it's
fun.
just so exciting how much enthused, like he still got the fire. Even there's always the argument about like how old can you keep directing? Like that's the Tarantino 10 films and out, and Scorsese proves he's still got the passion, and
Yeah.
you could see it and the enthusiasm, and you see it on screen. Like these movies don't feel like they're made by a man his age; they still feel like the same guy, which I think is
Still a
incredible.
lot of invention. And
Yeah,
I know Paul Schrader loves to comment, but I think the choice that Marty made to, not make it a white savior movie was
Mm.
refreshing. That
Yeah,
would have been cool. You know the story. I mean, forgive me if it's more obvious to me, but the bottom line is that Leo was going to play the CIA agent that was played
yes,
eventually by Plemons, who's always fucking great,
yeah,
and it was going to be, we're going to come down there and square everything away and save these poor Indians and, slap a few people around. Well, they decided not to do that. I think it's one of Leo's great roles. He didn't get acknowledged for it. He plays an absolute doofus and sort of captivates this kind of the true sad American character, which is like, I just love that money. And you're like, he's a fucking idiot. But he also, I think, probably loved her. So I think the movie is really complicated and De Niro is great. It's sort of underrated, but yes, to your point, Rob, it's there's so much life to it and vivacity and curiosity. He clearly was wanted to understand the Indian culture down there and reached out. And I know from my experience that he made them feel welcome and part of his process, and that's why he's a great filmmaker because he's really curious. And we have other great filmmakers who do whatever they do, but Marty is very special and just a really warm character. And then if you see his documentary, he's no pushover either. He's a
oh yeah,
fucking tough little vermin.
yeah. Yeah, that was a great documentary. I mean,
So,
we will start to wind down, but I know,
well,
Mike, did
I'm
you want
not
to
finished.
talk
Have
about
I
the video
told you
games?
about?
I think somebody wanted to bring up Until
We haven't
Dawn.
I just
talked about
wanted
the
to.
creature yet.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
there you go. The
please.
creatures.
Let's
Hey,
talk all
the
about
toys are
that.
coming out.
You
I just
better
wanted to
believe
go
it.
back. Larry, I
We're
wanted
not
to ask
fucking
you.
around
I didn't want to.
here.
Oh, look at him. One thing we couldn't have imagined when we last spoke to you in 2008 was that you would write a video game called Until Dawn with Graham
Yeah.
Resnick,
Yay.
and which has also taken on a life of its own. There's a sequel, there's a remake. David Sandberg did a feature film adaptation of it last year that Dauberman wrote. I just wanted to touch on what kind of what the process of writing a video game is, because it seems like either it could be um, like a writer's dream because you've got endless possibilities, or kind of a nightmare. And you also performed in the game as well.
Mhm.
No, it was nothing but glory. It was so wonderful. So the short story of it is, I was invited to meet with these two Brits for some unknown reason. They were working on a project, and so we got together and they started saying, "Well, we have this story. It's a video game, and we're looking for an American writer to get this sort of the American vernacular. And we love your movies at Glass Eye. Sort of your approach to horror. It's just feels very current and hip and fun and whatever. This was the golden years of Glass Eye. And then they said, and the setting is this mountain called Blackwood Mountain, and there's a character named Jack Fiddler. And I was like, all right, guys, it's a Wendigo story, right? And they're like, you knew. See, Algernon Blackwood wrote Wendigo in the 20s, one of the many ways the story's been told, but he sort of gets to the credit, I think, for bringing that to the Western world. Very atmospheric story, and so they said, yeah, well, if you'd write a spec script, and here are the beats of this scene, and I said, okay, that sounds fun. Why not? Graham, what do they want me to write a video game? I've never played a video game in my life. So Graham and I had been writing scripts together, and of course, he was my sound guy, and he worked for Glass Eye. He was Ty West's old friend, so he was just part of the community. Glass Eye, I gave him a room at the office, and so we wrote a spec script. He kind of pushed me. He kept saying the deadline is Saturday, and I was like, "Oh, right, okay, whatever." So it was fun, and we had a lot of laughs because we kept it sort of light. And it is in the movie. It's or the game. It's when the I won't remember everybody's name, but the two kids go up to the cabin, the two, and then they encounter the Wendigo there. Anyway, long story short, we got the job, which was crazy, but they loved our thing. And then we worked on it for like 3 years. It was just fantastic. And what happened is it was PlayStation 3, and we even did some shoots, and I had the dots on and the whole thing. And I mean, we'd finished the script, the whole damn script. It was, 800 pages or more or something like that, because you have to do all the branching.
Everything, right?
It's also very, it was quite talky because that's what they had asked us to do. Now, it's important to understand, for what it's worth, is that, we would get the storyline. Graham and I did not write this story. In fact, even Supermassive, which is the company the two dudes worked there, they were taking over a game that just couldn't quite work. And I think they added the Wendigos. Um, anyway, so we wrote the whole thing, and then they came up with PlayStation 4, and they said, you know what? The the capture is going to be so much more sophisticated that we can really let the actors sort of perform emotions. And so, can you rewrite the entire script with less leaning into the dialogue? So, what was fun is, I mean, so we literally wrote it twice, and we're getting paid the whole time, and we would meet with these Brits. They would come over here. We'd go to the fucking bar, and it was insane. We'd never get out of there. And also, because I'd set the whole thing up with Graham, I was sort of Graham's agent. I was representing him, and Graham would be like, man, we're working on this a lot. And I was like, I know, I know. And so I try to get more money. So, I always feel like I was serving almost as a producer on it. And not that I'm asking for credit or anything, but I'm just saying that was my function, which is kind of what I've always done, is just try to make things happen and come together, and get the right people working on the thing. In other words, I could never have done this on my own. I just don't have an intuition about the video games. I like the concept of branching, and it's something I had been thinking about ever since they invented the laser disc and they told us about it. So, uh, so I came at it from a story point of view, and then Graham. So what we would do is we get the prompts, like what's supposed to happen. She goes downstairs into the basement, and then Graham would write one, 7 pages, and then I would write 7 pages. And eventually he lived in another city, he went to LA, and then we'd just Zoom for hours, and we'd do what we call punch ups. So I would fix his stuff and he'd fix mine. Anyway, this went on and on and on for years. But as I say, the original period, we were all in New York. It was fantastic. And drinking way too much and having fun. And we did that first capture. And then eventually we brought Peter Polk on, who was another Glass Eye guy, and he did producing to actually do the shoots. And we had Remy Malik and Aiden Christensen. I mean, I can't remember names. The point is fancy people, and it was really, really fun. And we got to run around with, you have to get you go into this room of weapons, and you get the foam weapons because it's just for motion capture. And they're also videoing you, so they have some reference for the animation. It was all just fantastic. And we wrote, I don't know, 4 or 5 other ones, and I acted in some other ones as well. Oh, the funny thing about the Until Dawn, as far as me, is that they got scared and didn't name him Jack Fiddler because he is a historic figure who was a Wendigo hunter. That's why I knew the name. And so I'm just the flamethrower guy, which is so years later I went to Comic-Con, and we always did a booth at Comic-Con in New York, and we showed all our old movies, posters, and people came, and we were the novelty, the weird little crusty little punk company, while the Marvel movies and all that shit was everywhere else. But anyway, that one year I was like the kids would come cosplaying as the characters from Until Dawn, and then they would see me, and they would just their heads would explode, and they're it's actually the fucking
Yeah.
flamethrower guy, and no one
Yeah.
dressed like the flamethrower guy, so I could complete their picture each time, and
Oh.
they were truly delighted, and that's the most famous I've ever been. Um, so it was fun, but yeah, we wrote several more, and they got increasingly less exciting, and then we were gonna do so we did Man and Medan, and it just wasn't as good as what we'd started. I think
Mm.
just like everything,
Yeah.
they had to start tightening
Yeah.
their belt. The level of care that they put into Until Dawn, nobody could keep that up. I mean, this was truly like their
Yeah.
masterwork, their Citizen Kane, if you will. And it's, the other thing is Sony America didn't really, they were like, whatever. It was very much Sony England that was behind it and, had the relationships with Supermassive. And so there was not much promotion here. And that's why I love that show, among other things, because just like Good Boy, it just came out of nowhere and
Yeah.
fans made it a hit. And now it's an iconic piece because of
Yeah.
the psychological steps rather than just gaming steps. It's like, how would you answer this question? Would you be nice? Would you be mean? Would you be vengeful? And that's what builds the story. So it was definitely really, really fun and interesting. And then I got exhausted. And Graham kept working there and did the
Yeah.
quarry, which I
The
think
first
Victoria is beautiful. Yeah.
the first time I ever made any money uh screenwriting, I bought a new TV, a PlayStation 4, and Until Dawn because I knew you guys were involved.
yeah.
And me and my wife played through it multiple times, and I swear to you, it scared the shit out of us. Like I haven't jumped, like playing a game since I don't know, like maybe like the first Resident Evil. But
So cool.
yeah, it's such a cool game. It is underrated as far as I don't know why more gamers don't talk about it because it's so cinematic.
Well,
Um
people who played it, that it
yeah,
definitely matters to them. So
yeah.
I feel acknowledged about it.
And I really love how much you guys have your fingerprints all over it. There's so many little touches that like I would know watching your films, other people would know from being watching your films. But it's crazy how you managed to get that nervousness you put into your films into a video game, and it was just it's just on edge the whole time playing it.
Well, the
Video
thing
games
is
for nervous
cool.
people.
Yes.
Video games too.
Well, the thing is, what I love about the game is that I mean, we're telegraphing it's a Wendigo story, but in truth, you think it's a serial killer story
Yeah,
first.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you kind of get all those delicious cliches and, people being sawn in half and, the gun,
Hmm.
who's all of those trust issues. And so all of that stuff would have been enough of a game. And then you introduce the supernatural. It's kind of my total jam in terms of structure because you're like there's actually even bigger story going on and so on and so on. And then oh well, and then the funny thing is I have the same speech. I've written it for three different movies. The sort of the elder, I mean, it's talk about cultural usurpation or whatever, I'm basically talking about the Wendigo, which I do in Wendigo movie. I do it in Skin and Bones. I have the old wise Indian, and then I have Jack Fiddler or whatever his name was, the flamethrower guy. He's got the basically the same lines, which is just laying out the Wendigo mythology. So but the true Easter egg, I'm sure you've noticed, but there's something they call the cinema room, which is in America, we call it a theater.
Yeah.
And it's all Glass Eye posters.
Yeah.
Ah, cool.
Yeah, I totally marked out for that. That was fun. That was
Nice.
have you seen Yellow Jackets at all, speaking of the Wendigo?
No. Is that a Wendigo movie show?
I, uh
Or it's
it,
animal people, right?
it might be. I don't know. I'm curious to see how they wrap it up. They haven't explicitly said it, but it's funny because my wife loves it and watches it all the time, and she tells me all this. I haven't like sat down and watched it. I'm like, well, that's a Wendigo. Like that was in like, did you ever see the movie Wendigo? Well, like that's what this is.
Well, I
So they,
love the Wendigo. It still is the most slippery of all it's now become, I guess, a pop character. I mean, it's not a werewolf or a vampire, but there's
Yeah.
just on the side is the Wendigo movies, and as you know, Hannibal the TV show,
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
Wendigo
Yeah.
based. Um, and there's something, yeah, but it's still a very elusive mythology, and I sort of favored the antler person, but in a
Mhm.
way, my best Wendigo movie doesn't have that character. It has the Doug Jones, which is just
Mhm.
the person that's become a cannibal. So that's what I love about it, and it's a very huge, it's about Western expansionism. If you see the movie Ravenous, so there are
Mhm.
many ways to portray the Wendigo, and I like that it's so slippery that it won't ever be popular because you can't even necessarily make a perfect Wendigo toy, although I've tried. Um, but anyway, so it's just yeah, so maybe it is in Yellow Jackets, and I'm sure most
Yeah.
people are now writers are probably hip, not from my movie, but from the general awareness. And as you know, in Marvel, I mean, do I have that? There's a Wendigo character in
Yeah.
Marvel, Battle
Yeah.
Spider-Man, or maybe it's
Oh
Werewolf.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that was
But
the original like Todd McFarlane run. Was
and
he
those
fought a
are
giant
like
Wendigo?
sort of Yeti kind of guys.
Yes.
They're a little, if you will, they've kind of lost their figure. I feel they
Yeah.
could have trimmed down a little my own aesthetic, but they're still, they've been around forever, but they haven't quite caught on, which I love.
You're actually making remember I wanted to share a short film with you, but it's about 20 minutes long. It's called Inquo for When the Starving Return. It was produced
I,
up here in Vancouver by indigenous stop motion filmmakers, and it's a freaky Wendigo story.
oh, please send it.
With built sets, it's an entirely stop motion puppets.
Oh, dude, you
Uh,
got to send it to
yeah,
me.
you're gonna dig it. It's a representation of them I've not seen before,
Well,
entirely from an indigenous perspective. It's really cool.
so I wrote a book about the Wendigo, and it's really, once again, just a clearinghouse of other people. Now, a lot of it is Native Americans and scholars talking about my movies, which I think is fun because some of them are a bit of a dress down, so fair enough. But more importantly, I celebrate the Marvel. Well, I have like Sam Zimmerman writes a whole thing about Wendigo on TV. I have some other great author, Kim Newman wrote about Wendigo in movies. But what I'm trying to say is, I love what I didn't realize is that you'd have to pay for the rights to every one of the pictures because, there's Wendigos in some classic television shows beyond Hannibal. Anyway, all I'm getting at is like anyway, it's a cool thing, and I one day I want to redo that book. It came out and then disappeared. It was on a teeny little press, but you could have an entire section on YouTube short Wendigo movies because if you
Mm.
go on YouTube and you say Wendigo, you'll find the movies you're describing, like these beautiful hand um, crafted works of cinema. Uh, but sort of there's a almost a Wendigo tradition. So I'd love to see that one. And
Do you,
there's a bunch of shorts. They all the best ones capture that elusive thing, which I don't think I ever quite captured. I still need to make a Wendigo picture that works. Because it's such an elusive thing, the kind of this level of spookiness and
Mm.
dread. And after all, it's a Canadian myth. You guys should be doing uh, good work.
Yeah, it's there's an indigenous author named Richard Van Camp who's very popular, and it's based on a story of his.
I
But
probably have this book. I have all these random Wendigo books.
mhm. I'll send it to you. But I'm glad we touched on Wendigo because that was
Mm.
the newest iteration I had seen. It just kind of blew my mind.
That's so cool. Look, I have to show you. I mean, this is I
For
don't know
those at
why
home on the podcast, we'll have to have audio descriptions.
this is my fantastic book. It's so cool.
Oh, cool.
Sudden Storm.
Wow.
Sure. Of course, it's like out of print, or I don't know what it is. I'm gonna redo it.
Yeah, if you have the rights to it, we could
Yeah.
help you get a publisher.
Well,
Yeah.
We
let's
have a
talk.
book too, you know.
Who did
Hint.
it? Anyway, it's a beautiful book, and actually, well, as usual, it's maybe a little obscure because there's some actually very thoughtful things. But um, Nathan Carlson, he's the guy who, yeah, because the real Wendigo story, never mind all these fictions, is, terrifying. And of course, the guy that beheaded the person on the bus up there in
God, yeah.
Canada.
Oh yeah.
So I touch on that too. It's a very dangerous myth. And if you talk to real people who care about things, the spiritual dimension, they're like, you shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be talking about this shit. So I appreciate the reverence uh,
Yeah.
of
Um,
of the creature.
I just want, I just want to give a little love to certain things before we wrap up that you've been involved in. Um, Tell me, because I don't know, Tales from Beyond the Pale, what is the current iteration of it? Because I believe now, here's the thing. When you first started that, I thought it was such a great idea because, of course, we all knew the radio dramas and kind of missed them, and you were trying to recapture that and use your talent from Glass Eye Pix. What was interesting though is I think when you started it, maybe you were just a little ahead of the curve because that was right
We were.
before podcasts became like, because I remember we had discussions like, what is the distribution model for these radio shows?
Yeah. And I
But
said the new company Spotify should have more than just music. They should have audio
yes,
dramas. Gee whiz. Yeah. If
yeah,
I
just a
get a
little
dollar
ahead
for
of the
every good
curve.
idea I had.
Yeah.
But I mean, you were able to do that original iteration, do CDs of it, and put it out there. And then I caught some of the live ones, which I thought was just such a great, unique experience. But tell us about Tales from Beyond the Pale now in 2026.
So Glenn and I both, Glenn McQuaid is my compadre on that project. It was basically his idea. And what he didn't realize is when he said it offhand, oh, Glass Eye should make radio plays. I said, okay, absolutely. We'll get started immediately. So then we have over 50 episodes. And for a long time, they were, we would release them. I don't even remember, but they would be, audio, like some sort of download thing, and then we release them on CD, eventually on a thumb drive. Beautiful booklets. You can savor all the artwork. We had some of the great artists like Gary Pullen from Canada and uh, Graham Humphreys, the great painter, and so on and so on. So it was a beautiful project for 50 episodes, and we did it live at the Overlook. We did it in LA. We did it in Montreal at Fantasia. And, our secret sauce was that we would hire the actors who were there supporting their movies. So it was a very fun thing with Barbara Crampton. We did so there Ron Perlman, Doug Jones, many wonderful names. Angus Scrimm did a couple over the years. Blah blah blah. We started it again. So we took some time off. Glenn and I were both making movies and COVID and this, that, and the next thing. And now we're back. We've just put out our fourth episode. We put one out every month, and it's just a regular subscribable podcast. And like with so many things, um, the business model has completely collapsed, and we have no way to monetize it. So we just bitterly make them. And I'm just like,
you've nailed everything going on.
Everything to do with this industry is that
I
you just bitterly make them.
my movies are about anxiety, and my productions are about bitterness.
Video plays for bitter people.
Yes.
Bitter, anxious people. So I don't know what's the point of all of this, but we love our collaborators. Emily Bennett, Jen Wexler did one. She was a producer for many previous ones, and it was so nice to have her behind the camera, as it were. Joe Bob Biggs makes a cameo. Oh, that's not out yet. That's coming up next. So,
Oh, okay.
one wonderful thing after another. But yeah, I don't know. I suppose you could put ads on them, but that would take some effort. So. Just putting them out for the fans, and then I'm going to retire, so it's fine. I'll be done.
Just get that digital tip jar, man, and we'll hook you up.
Yeah.
So you can subscribe to Tales from Beyond the Pale.
You can buy stuff, and we will put these out in some form, but that'll cost money too. The whole thing's absurd. It doesn't matter. We love what we do, and there's got to be a way. But right now, talesfrombeyondthepale.com, 50 delicious, unique, half-hour spooky stories. I always say, if you don't like one, listen to the next one. They're all different. Many wonderful artists involved in this project over 20 years. Is that even true? A
I
long
think
time,
at this point, yeah.
maybe 15, but whatever it is, it seems like it's gone on forever.
Incredible. All right. Anybody else while we have Larry with us? Anybody else have anything else they want to say other than thank you?
Thank you, Larry. Really, truly. That's what I want to say.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
for coming on.
Yeah.
You've been very good to Icons and all of us individually, and we wanted to have you on this new version of Icons because of that.
Well,
I actually wanted to put a bug in your ear about something, kind of wrap up this interview close to the way we did it 20 years ago. The Tom Waits thing didn't work out. Okay. How about, and I know you don't like learning lines, but I mean, this would be fantastic. Ron Perlman, you and John C. Reilly as fraternal twins in one of those rural circuses in the early 1900s, maybe. How about that?
Oh, yeah, but you must have heard me. I have a circus movie for Ron. And
Yeah,
I just need someone to play his brother.
Yeah, you and John C. Reilly playing fraternal twins. That would be amazing.
All right. I'll talk to the front office.
I'm not sure if Larry can. I'm not quite sure if Larry can afford Larry's day rate for a role like that. But
there's not enough Jason in the fucking.
Holy cow!
Get
Larry,
me to do.
Holy cow! You could be the deaf mute brother who's a clown.
Perfect.
Holy cow! So
I have Riley to juggle.
No, don't. That would be the whole tragedy of it. You don't know how to juggle. You're a clown who doesn't know how to juggle or clown, and the two brothers are like supporting you. You know, like
all right, we're gonna have a story meeting as soon as we finish this podcast.
Tears of a Clown, 2027.
I would watch that. I would watch that movie.
Well, I'm going to call Ron. You know, he was a producer for a while. He was going to produce, so many things we had. What a comrade. But then I think he realized it's no business to be in. So he backed off of his production company. It's not for sissies. Let me tell you that.
No.
Yeah.
Well, Larry, thank you so much for just being you and continuing to make movies that we appreciate. You know, it's always great to catch up and talk.
I really appreciate you guys, and your mission is also keeping all this together and making things that no one notices matter. So,
well, you can get the first 4 of Larry Fessenden's movies from Vinegar Syndrome in 4K. You can listen to Tales from Beyond the Pale wherever you get podcasts, and if you go to Amazon, you can buy Icons of Fright: 100 Interviews with Legendary Horror Filmmakers, our new book. Larry is in here. It is the longest, booziest interview you will ever read, and probably our best.
There's a great Glenn McQuaid interview in there too, Larry.
That's yes. Glenn McQuaid's in the book as well. So
bring Glenn back. We gotta bring Glenn on this thing.
Well, Glenn has a new movie, which I'm sure you're all aware of.
So excited for
that. Very excited.
As announced, so it's not a spoiler to tell you that will be coming out. The Restoration at Grayson Manor. And what was I going to say? Oh, I think it's a secret, but never mind. I Sell the Dead is coming out through the Glass Eye Pix label.
Oh, beautiful.
Sweet.
Nice,
wow.
Nice new goodies on there. And so that mission continues as well. It would be so nice to revisit that movie. I have a fresh new interview from Perlman. Waxing poetic about his experience on it.
So cool.
That's coming soon.
That's awesome.
Wow. Well, this is Icons of Fright, and no bigger icon than Larry Fessenden to us. So thank you again for being here, and we will see you all soon enough. Thank you.
Is your home library feeling a little dull? Spice it up with some scary good books from Harker Press. We've got books on your favorite franchises and filmmakers loaded with new interviews and never-before-seen photos, many of which are also available on Audible. Learn more at harkerpress.com.